Yes.
All set up here, Jim.
Are you? Yep.
With minutes and agendas and everything, it's great.
Take me a second to get back here.
Jackie, what's your last name, everybody?
Marks, M-A-R-K-S.
And if I can have the prerequisite, everybody sign in with an email. We'll start it down this way. Okay, we're gonna open the meeting. It is 5:04 p.m. on the 7th of June, Wednesday. The minutes, has everybody got the minutes to the meeting, and do they want to see from April 5th, which was the last meeting we had? We missed May because of no place to, so it was set up at the last second. See any changes or additions or things?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. The, on old business, which is usually what we end up starting with, we'll put the L Associates at the beginning here so that they can dive in and give us whatever they've got. I've got listed the update and then the master and CIP stuff.
Perfect.
And they had paperwork to go with those.
Perfect. So just to jump right in, the update that you have in front of you here, there are two projects that Gail is administering on behalf of the airport. First being the runway reconstruction project. There's no update on the construction from the time of the last meeting. I spoke with Nick Ippolito, project manager, today, and the only item that I have from him is I guess we're still waiting on the Mass DOT financial reimbursement package to come back from the mayor's office so that we can submit that to Mass DOT for payment. So just wanted to check in on that with all of you, and actions requested would be issuing the payment in the amount of $334,679. 74 cents, which is 92.5% of the engineering fees to date, to Gail once those funds have been received.
Okay. So we're waiting on those, that amount? Has to go to Gail, or is it coming from the state?
It will have to go to Gail once the funds are received. So once you get the reimbursement in, that'll have to be paid.
I have no idea with that.
Okay. I'll check in. I'll check with Nick and see. I know he had mentioned, like I said, waiting on that DocuSign to be signed by the mayor for the state portion. So
that's what I got. Yeah.
Okay.
We have to touch base with him because he's the only signee of money.
Okay, I'll follow up with you maybe tomorrow. We can kind of figure out where we need to go with that.
Is that for the runway or for the master plan?
For the runway.
It's
We still haven't had that taken care of?
well,
Are we starting this month?
We paid that already.
I can double
Last month.
I can double check with Nick. This I apologize if I have old information, but I will confirm.
Nick is a
Nick.
Gail guy. He will-
That makes the regular
Yeah.
engineers.
The engineering.
I thought that went out last month.
Okay,
I could be mistaken.
Okay, if there's some confusion, I mean, I'm happy to I'm happy to coordinate on my end, just to make sure that.
yeah, we'll have to. I mean, the mayor and the mayor's secretary may have the
Okay.
information. I don't know. I mean, I can stop in tomorrow and see him, I guess.
Okay, that would be great,
So-
and I'll confirm with Nick, you know, again tomorrow, and just make sure that we have this right here.
Okay.
And then help figure out kind of what we need and moving forward, what we need to do.
And is the project still on time right now, starting in July?
As far, oh geez, you didn't give me an update on that. As far as I know, it should be, I don't know of any delays, he didn't inform me of any delays.
So the bunker, the concrete bunker or unit or housing or whatever you want to call this is done?
I don't think it's starting till at least the first week of August.
Oh, first week,
Because the
first
bunker has
week
to be,
of July.
the bunker has to be custom made. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's like 16 weeks out, so that's why it got pushed to the first week of August. That's the last we heard.
The
Wow.
one item that we need from the commission with respect to the vault is, I guess, Nick's waiting for selection of
The
color for the
Right.
vault.
Jim can do that.
So was hoping,
Yeah.
you know, maybe after the meeting or at some point to just pick the color of the vault before I leave today.
Yeah.
And kind of get that nailed down.
My apologies, but what's the vault and then what is the bunker?
Are we referring to the same thing?
yeah, the
Just
bunker
using
is the
different-
same as the vault.
The vault, it's the electrical components, so all the electrical housing for the runway project, all the lighting and things like that, nav aids and.
Where's that to be situated, please?
I do not have the plan in front of me, I'd be happy
Yes,
to.
I have it. It's going right outside the fence, right at to the right of the gate, inside the fence. And the electrical from the electrical room inside the building is also going out into that.
Right, so we're gonna get the old Stan's office is gonna come back to be a real office again versus every piece of electronics
The,
and power.
And the runway lights and taxiway lights are going to be changed to LED lights, which will be a good cost savings for us.
on the,
Does that help you?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Color chart.
She has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had the one with me, circled it and all that, but I didn't print it out.
Do you want me to pass this down to you now?
You can show them around, I've got
Yeah.
got it in my.
So I take it the ones with the circles around it are the ones we should be looking
They're the most popular.
This is color from the outside of the vault.
Correct.
Wouldn't think that'd be,
I get my vote.
What's the surface of the outside made of? Is this-
Concrete.
Oh, it's concrete and it's just painted?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no kidding. Whoever circled it, I'm with you on that also.
I like the balls. Or the shells, yeah.
No very red. Frozen orange.
Are there any questions that any of you have that I can bring back to Nick in the office? You know, get information from you that you need?
Yes. So we have helicopter operations also at the airport. And I asked him previously that we need to keep the helicopter operations continuing during the runway project. You know, maybe designate the tie-down area as a place for helicopter landing. And I asked the Mass DOT guy how we would do that. And he said we would note to that, and the helicopter operations would have to ask prior approval. And the only reason why they would need to ask us for prior approval is if there was dust or equipment or something that they wouldn't want to come in and land if there was too much, you know, disruption. But we do have weekly helicopter operations. We need those to continue during the runway project.
Yeah.
So-
It's UMass's life flight.
Understood, okay.
That too, yes, yes.
Let me speak with Nick about this tomorrow when I get back into the office, and we'll get an answer.
And that's, you know, everything else we know has to stop, but the helicopter operations, you know, wherever we put them, even if it's across the road or if they just have to be able to come in. So the construction trucks you know, maybe don't go into the tie-down area. I'm sure they have to be parked somewhere, but just to have a clear space that we can designate for them.
Dust-free space.
Dust free,
Dust free, okay.
yeah, and we'll note
I'm sure we can figure out something.
Yeah,
Understood, okay.
important.
I think
Because
we-
one of our tenants is a helicopter operator and we have other ones coming in, so.
Understood. I will, I'll speak with him tomorrow.
And while we're
This is my coffee,
at it, we also have RC operations
because it has a cancer.
also around, you know, the
coffee.
small
Nothing to
remote
worry
controlled
about.
aircraft. Those also probably need to continue during the meeting.
It's a side effect from the cancer course.
You know, those are across the street, but still, you know, we just want to make them aware that we have these things going on.
Mhm. Understood. I will bring both of these to his attention tomorrow. I'm sure he is already well aware, but.
The discussions that we had months ago, the theory was that they were gonna use, I think they were gonna come up the road and go in front of Kevin McColl's hangar. And they were gonna use the grassy area and part of the ramp for where Kevin was set up for a lot of the operations.
Okay.
And there is a gate outside on the right-hand side of the north end, on the west side of the north end, with a little modification, probably, or some bulldozer work, they could use that too for a lot of the heavy trucks. So they're not destroying the road that we just had finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
good
all
point.
that.
Good
So,
point, yeah.
we got into the discussion a little bit that way, so I'm not sure. I haven't seen anybody from the contractor since last summer, late last summer, they were bidding the thing out, but we thought we could use that for inside the fenced-in area.
Okay, I'll mention that to him
But,
as well.
yeah, and I don't know with any, with the rest of the operation, they were gonna be, because there's gonna be probably still 3 airplanes on the tie down, but we can move them to the other side of the tie down.
Yeah,
someplace
I have
else.
some information on
But,
that. I'll get to it.
We, other than that, I think they've got a pretty good idea what they wanna do, because they're gonna be taking some material out, and I don't know, I guess we have to decide whether we wanna keep some of the material that comes out of there too.
Okay,
And that's where we're gonna put it, and what we can do with it. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna grind the pavement up, or if they're just gonna cut it out, things like that, that are gonna happen pretty quick, but
Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're gonna grind it up.
They're gonna grind it up?
Yeah.
And reuse it or just
Yeah.
Well,
there
they'll use some of it for
as a base?
the base, but they've got to dig it down. I know there's some discussion at the time that they found some spots they want to fix,
Yeah, you've got some places.
that are deeper,
Yeah.
that are gonna have to be fixed.
It's
and-
pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
You're always fine.
so.
So right now, the start date is still first week of August.
as far as I know, I will confirm that with Nick.
Yeah, because we're all gonna scramble and get our planes out of there.
Yeah, good idea.
Some of us
Do
can.
you guys have any updates for us of what's happening?
I have more updates on the master plan, a couple of other items.
Yeah. Okay.
But as far as I know, everything was on the same schedule that Nick had discussed at the last meeting. Any other questions on the runway project that I can bring back to him?
No.
Okay, so to just move on, then to project number 2, the master plan update project. As you all know, we submitted the grant application on behalf of the airport to FAA, Mass DOT. We're waiting for issuance of funding on those 2 applications. So as soon as those come through, we can really hit the ground running on the master plan project. And I guess just to give anyone in the room who hasn't been through a master plan project at the airport before, a little bit of background. What we'll do as part of the master plan is we'll take a look at all the facilities on the airfield, and we will do an evaluation with respect to compliance with federal standards, whether they're meeting the needs of the airport, the conditions, and we'll document all of these things, and then the master plan will make recommendations for improvements that are needed at the airport for the next 20-year planning period.
Yeah, 5, 10, and 20, I guess.
Yep. So short-term, we'll make recommendations for short-term improvements over the next 5 years, midterm improvements over the next 10, and then out to long-term improvements over 20 years. So really, this is a great opportunity. It's a public process that, I'm looking forward to working with all of you on, getting your feedback and input on, different things that the airport might need, and making sure that, like I said, that those standards, the FAA standards are being addressed with respect to safety and things like that. Fortunately, with the runway and taxiway project going on, and you'll have that up to date, a lot of those compliance issues will have been addressed through the runway reconstruction. So fortunately, that's one big ticket item that we won't really have to worry about. But at the CIP meeting last year, the capital improvement program meeting that the airport has every year with FAA and Mass DOT, really came to realize that the airport's kind of at, I guess, now that the runway's being reconstructed, a pause point where, most of the improvements from the last master planning process had already been, completed or constructed, and it's time to take a pause, take a breath, and just look at your facilities and see, like, what are the needs here, and realistically, what can you achieve given the funding that's available. And I know there's a lot of additional with the BIL money coming online, with the entitlement money that you all receive every year from the FAA, but just what's the best use of that money, and what do you really need the most? And this master plan project will really identify those key goals for you. So, like I said, as soon as that funding comes through, really looking forward to hitting the ground running with all of you, getting your feedback. It really is supposed to be an interactive process. It's a public process. So we'll certainly want to incorporate, a public involvement component that is required, under the federal guidance for master planning. So just to kind of give you all a heads up as to what is coming and what will be expected of all of you throughout that process. Reviews and input, feedback is definitely appreciated, necessary, because it's your master plan. It's not Gale Associates' master plan. Our goal is to guide you through the process. Make sure that you're complying with what you need to comply with, but ultimately arrive at, some recommendations for projects that will actually be needed.
Any word about our hazard beacon lights?
Hazard beacon lights.
That's one of the projects that we're looking at. Probably will be part of it, but
Part of the
a lot of it,
new master
well,
plan.
no, we have to determine what we can use the funds for that we get. And that's where a lot of the maintenance is solely on the city. And that's why we have to be careful how we fix all this sort of stuff.
As we go through the planning process and make these recommendations, we'll certainly provide the airport with all the information needed. What is eligible under the Airport Improvement Program through FAA, what's eligible under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Program, what's eligible under the Massachusetts Safety and Maintenance Program, and then what might need to be covered by local funding. And we will outline all of that so that you have all the information up front before any decisions are made, so you can decide what the best path forward will be. And that's,
Because a lot of the stuff, like the hazard beacons, have basically been up longer than their life expectancy. And that's one of the then there was a discussion about how maybe they're not going to even be required anymore.
Well,
So
I was just gonna say, the
that's
FAA,
the whole
FAA
thing.
is not requiring obstruction beacons
Right.
anymore.
But,
We do not have to have them.
so, it's
Per
a lot
regular.
goes what are the legal ramifications too of turning the property back over to the owners and abandoning them or removing them. So there's there's cost with keeping them, and there's cost with getting rid of them, I'm sure. So there's a lot of questions out there that haven't been answered.
Yeah, and these are all great things to bring up. I mean, I'll note things as we're going through the next few meetings before we begin the process.
Right.
And because I'm really at the point where I'm learning about the airport, and a lot of the information that I will get will come from all of you.
Right.
And certainly want to make sure that all those needs that you have are being documented, and trying to figure out a way that to best address those things. So what's the best option?
Does the master plan include things such as adding an additional approach, instrument approach?
Correct.
It could. Yeah, it could. Absolutely.
Because we have, one of the tenants has asked that we add an LPV approach, which includes a lower minimum decision altitude down to 200 feet without needing special training to do it. You need a WAS capable radio to do it. It's a vertical, and it uses the VOR for the horizontal. And since Gardner is at such a high altitude and the clouds come in, his point was if we have an LPV approach, we could bring ourselves in lower and actually get into the airport. At certain times when otherwise a different approach we could not.
Understood. Yeah. I know we've been working with flight procedures recently at other airports where they've been issuing LPV approaches on a clear 20-to-1 clearance. So certainly would be able to reach out to flight procedures and get information on what realistically would need to happen.
It would benefit.
It's pretty tough to get them out.
The 200 feet, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
that
Oh,
the
yeah.
FAA has minimum airport runway requirements for that.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
and
It doesn't.
the topography is a little sketchy when it comes to coming down that low.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
But we have the one approach, our never approach from this,
North, right?
well, it comes in and landing to the south, which comes down to the same altitude basically that we get on the VORA approach.
Yeah.
So I think that it would be nice to have maybe one from the other end, but the predominant bad weather direction, it's landing to the south is what we normally end up with.
You might be okay, because I understand you've been clearing trees out there, right?
We're trying to, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they've met the requirements, I think, because I'm going to say before I came around, more than 2-3 years ago, they ended up topping a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
And part of the runway project is clearing both
Yeah.
ends of some smaller stuff.
Well, that's gonna be the big bugaboo, is what information flight procedures has.
Right.
On the approaches. And because there's nothing specified in this master plan to do an aerial survey of the approaches.
Is that required before?
Sometimes it is, all I can say is sometimes it is. It's gonna be up to flight procedures. They're pretty good, they're pretty cooperative, we work with them all the time. But they wanna make sure that the approaches are clear, period. And then, they put it through their machinery, and they'll come all the way through. Well, the best we can give you is 270 feet, or something like that. Because it's not just the approaches, they go further out. Just, they don't want you dive bombing the runway. So they have their slopes, but I found that I've been doing this 30 years and never had a problem with flight procedures. I haven't always gotten my way, but they've always been reasonable as to why they couldn't do something,
Okay, so they do that ahead of time, and then if they agree, then the FAA publishes the approach.
In the old days, before the FAA became a bunch of nudges, really, we used to do an aerial survey at every airport that we work on. And they weren't cheap, they were like $70,000 just to do the aerial survey, to create the approaches. And we'd use them for 10, 12, 15 years, but you can gauge how fast trees grow and stuff. So you can get a pretty good idea. We never did it at Gardner. I remember the day that I fought for it. And at that time, the airport said, no, we don't need it. And I said, well, you may not need it today, but you might need it 10 years from now.
They didn't have WAS-capable radios back
Yeah,
then.
well, yeah, whatever the reason was.
Yeah.
It's something that was kind of routine back in the old days, really. It's not routine anymore, it's so expensive.
Well, in this master plan, you know, if you recall, Jim, from, you know, the scoping meetings, they really wanted the airport to stick within those non-primary entitlement dollars, so it's really, it's an abridged kind of study where, you know, the funding wasn't available for like those extra frills, if you will, unfortunately, so. What the plan, you know, with respect to evaluating the approaches is we'll utilize the information that we have on file, if we could pull information from flight procedures, and, you know, gather best information available and, you know, try to, you know, make some recommendations.
Plus, we do have drones, and we could enlist those guys to go out for a day and just...
It's a lot easier now with the GPS stuff, because it doesn't require ground-based equipment at all.
Right.
And other than maybe what do they call them, a Bassie or something.
This LPV approach will bring you down to
They
elevations is.
we have an LPV approach, we don't have an LPV approach, but we have an IF approach landing to the
Yeah,
south.
there's
But it
similar
brings it down to
different landing approach, an ILS system in terms of altitudes you can come down to, right? Decision altitude.
It's
Yeah,
just
the ILS is the most
lower.
sophisticated, expensive.
But they all ground-based.
Because it's vertical guidance.
It's all ground-based, and that's what the problem
The
is.
acronym LPV stands for
Lateral precision.
lateral precision,
With vertical guidance.
With vertical guidance. Yeah,
localizer performance with vertical.
Yeah.
but a lot of them have lateral guidance only.
Yeah, and the
They're,
LPV approach, the lateral guidance is the VOR part.
Well, no, this is a GPS approach,
Right,
and GPS doesn't require a VOR.
right.
There is no VOR on this, but but if you go into an ILS, then you have to, basically, that's where the cone is, that's where the expense is.
Yeah, we just did one in
Wow,
Nashua.
moving parts on.
An LPV?
No, an ILS.
Yeah,
That's $3 million right there.
yeah.
That's what I would.
They had an ILS before, is that on a different runway or?
No, well,
Nashua?
Yeah, we moved the runway, so the whole ILS, we changed it to a different kind.
Okay.
Actually, not even more modern, just a better kind for them. You don't have to keep the, what's the name of that thing now, it's been a while. But there's an area that must be kept flat because the radio signals bounce off of it. And if there's anything on there, like 5 feet of snow, you're getting a different reading in the air.
right.
So they have to keep that, you know, and we put a system in that doesn't require that. So I think it was better for them. But those systems, that's really today pie in the sky. GPS is the way it's going.
Right.
It's all going to be GPS eventually.
Who's asking that an LPV approach be placed?
Ty.
Yeah,
I think almost every airport we've worked at has one.
but they have, like I
They
said,
have
I think they have
nice
minimum
radios.
requirements for the airport itself.
Yeah, they do for physical infrastructure and approaches. I mean, there are requirements that have to be met, but it's not impossible. And I found that flight procedures is pretty liberal in assigning them. I mean, unless you've got a deal-breaking situation, they'll do everything they can to give you an LPV.
Yeah.
They're under orders to do it. The FAA's been under congressional orders to provide a certain number of LPVs every year. So they look for it.
Right. They have a lot of guidance given to, a lot of states have done a lot of things themselves to make themselves, airports more compliant. And unfortunately, Massachusetts is pretty hard to get anything done like that
I know.
because the way we're structured. But the GPS approaches, and we're going to be fortunate in that the VOR we have is going to be one of the required VORs. Gardner VOR is one of the higher level, high altitude VORs because they come in from Europe and they go right over it. All the way, anything coming from the west goes over Gardner. And so that's not going to go anywhere, so we know that one's going to, but the minimum operating network is, we lost Keene. There's a bunch of others that have been shut down around, so.
Yeah, they're shutting a lot of stuff down.
Right, all the VOIs, a lot of them, they're just
Yeah.
taking them on the
Well, the
surface.
NDBs are absolutely gone.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Nobody-
We have one, I think we have one airport with an NDB charter.
Yeah,
I don't know who else has it.
but they've also got some good, they haven't got an LPV approach, but I think they've got an RF approach.
They're trying.
They're trying.
They're trying.
But
They
here
have a
again,
national park
real
to
estate.
go over.
yeah,
There's always a complication, it's never easy, but there's absolutely no harm in going for it. The technology changes all the time, so just because last year it might have been hard to get, it might not be hard to get right now.
Good. Good to know.
Any other questions about the master plan process before I move on? So just the last item that I have on here is the disadvantaged business enterprise plan update. So this is something that kind of typically happens like a little bit in the background. Gail completes these disadvantaged business enterprise plans. Essentially, any DOT funded, meaning, you know, federal highways, airports, etc., any DOT funded entity has to have a plan in place for utilization of disadvantaged businesses on any of these contracts that use federal funding. And so effectively, you know, what happens is every 3 years FAA requires that the airport submit a goal for DBE participation based on the projects that you have coming up. I know on the current CIP, it's for 2024 to 2026 is the program, the years that we're looking at for the reporting period for DBE. So the project that's on there right now is the SRE building construction. So that would be the project really that we base the DBE goal on right now. It's you know, certainly something that can change as the CIP changes. I'm sure that, you know, many of you are aware that as you go through the capital improvement planning process with the agencies each year, certain projects are, you know, shuffled around. Certain things, you have more of a need for something, it might get shuffled into, you know, a closer year if you have a need for it, or pushed back if it's something that, you know, you might not need right away, or if there's not funding available. So a point being is, you know, just because we're listing projects in this disadvantaged business enterprise plan does not mean that you are, you know, locked into these projects or this goal. It's just the goal for now to submit to the FAA so you have something on the books for your compliance and that you're complying with this overall federal requirement. So just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention and let you all know that I'll be, you know, kind of working in the background, probably with you quite a bit, Isabel, and with you, Jim, on getting that, you know, just really getting that posted and out there so that we can submit that goal on behalf of the airport, because that is required as part of any grant application. You have to make a statement saying, hey, we have a DBE goal, DBE plan in place, it's up to date, here's our goal, you know, et cetera. So it's kind of just a little bit of red tape that we have to kind of work ourselves through, but definitely handling that in the background, and just wanted to let you all know that that's going on. The draft is actually, I have developed it already, and I'll be reaching out to you, Isabel and Jim, in the next week or so to, kind of get that moving along.
The state has, or the state or the federal government have the listing of disabled or disadvantaged businesses?
Yes.
The list that you choose from?
Yep, there's a directory. The Massachusetts Supplier Diversity Office is the certifying agency for all public, for all facilities in the state of Massachusetts. They do all the certifications. So fortunately, the airport doesn't have to actually certify any DDs. You just have to have a goal for participation.
You have to pick and at least offer the projects to them.
So it's, well, realistically, you're under what's considered, it's a race-neutral program, and what that means is, in the absence of discrimination,
Right.
here is what you could expect to achieve for DE participation in a normal bidding environment.
Right.
So, there are some requirements. If you get the bids in and the contractor's not meeting the goal for the participation, you should then go out and have the contractor solicit the disadvantaged business participation so that you're compliant with the program.
Yeah, so they have to be qualified to be able to participate in the project that we want.
That's correct.
And they have to be able to, we have to be able to prove that we have offered it to all of these through the bidding process.
Where
Or
it's
they have advantages in the bidding process.
they, really, like I said, with the race neutral program, you don't have to do specific outreach to the disadvantaged businesses unless you have a lack of participation. So if you get bids in and then you see, oh, shoot, there's no participation, then you do some outreach after that. But if you got the bids in and you have the disadvantaged business participation that you need on the project, you don't really need to do anything.
Right, and that can that be done at different levels for multiple contractors on the project? Like if there are subs?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
The subs don't,
Typically,
can bring you into the qualifying.
yeah, typically the sub-consultants would be, you don't have too many large contracting firms that can bid on these big airport
Right.
projects that qualify as small disadvantaged businesses.
Right.
So they would have to then sub out some of their work to these smaller firms. And it's really just to give, to give the little guys a piece of the pie is basically what you're trying to do.
And if they can't find them, sometimes you just don't have them,
Right.
but they can justify
I
that.
was gonna
Yes.
say, geography plays a part in it too, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
doesn't it?
Well, and
To a point.
Yeah.
fortunately,
A lot of it does.
as long as the contractor is providing what they consider a good faith effort for soliciting participation, you're all set. So even if the contractor doesn't make the goal for the project, if they can show that they've done the outreach and it's, hey, we sent out all these emails, we made these calls, but we didn't get any responses, you're okay.
I think that happened with the hangar
Yeah.
on the first round.
Yep,
There's a lot of
And
projects,
then
yeah.
a lot of projects can't meet that goal.
Yeah, and we'll help you out. I mean, as far as when the bids come in, that's part of our bid package review process, and making sure that we're letting the contractor know, hey, you didn't comply with with this standard, and we're going to need to reach out and try to get some additional participation.
Okay.
Help them out and give them some examples of potential businesses they could use or reach out to and things like that.
Jackie, what does that acronym CIP stand for?
Capital Improvement Program. Yep. So
Thank
those
you.
are all you're welcome. Big projects through FAA and Mass DOT.
The number of projects or the number of acronyms that everybody uses is mind-blowing.
Yep. And I apologize if I didn't lay that acronym out in the,
You did.
I didn't. Okay, I will do that next time. Any questions about DEP, disadvantaged business participation? Okay, that's all I have for tonight, unless any of you have anything for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're up next. Report managers.
All right, I have handouts.
stuff.
Yeah,
Same
well,
as
just a couple of things.
I'll take a piece if everybody's got one.
You've been busy.
Yeah. I got a couple maps, you know all those?
Yep, I have those pieces.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, this is
Is this?
All right, so you should have two handouts, the update and then something from the FAA.
Oh, okay.
Just quickly, our lawnmowers are broken, we're working to fix them. Jim's working on the tractor, I have ordered parts for the zero-turn mower. The hood latch that attaches the hood to it protects the engine, it also funnels the air into the engine. You can't run it without the hood, so we're down with that until we get the part, but it should be coming in this week. However, now is June and there are baby birds and turtle eggs on the grass, so now I don't want to mow until the baby birds are gone, because those birds, they nest in the ground, so we don't want to disturb them, they're babies. So a little tiny one today right along the grass, and also the turtle eggs, so we have to be careful. So I'll probably wait, even though the parts are coming this week, I probably won't be mowing yet. So it's,
What species?
it's a kestrel. The kestrels, the little ones that run along in the airports, they walk along the ground, kestrel. And then the turtles come out of the swamp.
Yep.
All right, so that's that. We have a new tenant in Building 10, Hangar 1. He moved in Saturday. Anatol has an LED ceiling light not working. Jim knows about that.
Yeah, we gotta get an electrician to replace, I've got to order one and get an electrician to put it in.
The new tenant bring an airplane with him?
Yeah, he's got a couple of airplanes. He's from Crow Island. He also has a hangar at Crow Island. He's got multiple airplanes.
And Building 10, is that new job with
Yes.
7 different?
Yes.
Down the other end.
Yep, down the other
South
end, it's way down the end, the new one. It has 6 hangars, and the tenant who was in there was looking for an airplane and never found one, so he gave it up, so this man just moved in. The airport building, painted all day yesterday, multiple coats. It's looking better and brighter, not as dim as it was before. I'm going to be ordering a new LED ceiling light and ordering a new door inside the fence. The window room has a lot of rotted wood and around the windowsills, all the walls are rotted. So I'm looking into costs to replace the rotted wood, whether we replace some of it, all of it, whether we replace the windows. We'll see what kind of quotes we get, and if it's not too expensive, we'll see what we can do. Somebody mentioned taking it off and just going across with a couple of windows, but then we lose our view as we look down the runway, and we kind of want to keep it if we can, even though it is in very tough shape.
Question on the new door, which door is that?
The one inside the fence. Next to
Going onto the ramp,
window room.
is it the inside door or the screen door?
The inside door,
Oh, okay.
yes.
On the building.
On the building, yeah.
Into the lounge.
It's the key door, the door with the...
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, because we need new latch for the handle for
I'm
the screen
ordering
door.
that at the same time, yes. That, I touched it and it broke right off, yeah. Okay.
What does it
and-
mean when you say it's inside the fence, this new door?
Well,
No, that's
just
the
a pilot entrance.
the pilot lounge,
for-
it's from the ramp
for
to
instance.
the pilot lounge.
Yes, I'll tell, yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, the outside door is outside the fence for, say, outside visitors. The inside door is really for pilots, transient pilots coming in.
Okay, I get it now, inside, I
Yeah,
understand now.
yes. Okay, so, number 5, the antenna tower. So the FAA has sent a notice, a public notice saying there's a antenna in Hubbardston, a tower that is possibly going to be built in Hubbardston. And if you look on page 5, there's a map. And it is close to the Gardner Airport. If you look on page 5, the map, and
Ain't that something? How
Yeah.
tall is this thing gonna be?
okay, so the site elevation is 1,039 feet before the tower. The tower is 145 feet above that, for a total of 1,184 feet. So, it's high. And if people were coming from the east or from the northeast, they might be swinging around to do a left downwind.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of,
They might be coming in from the south and choose to do an upwind before they do crosswind and then the downwind, you know. A lot of-
Yeah.
They're coming in from the south.
yeah, so this is proposed, so the FAA would like comments before June 9, which is actually Friday, if we are opposed to it.
My comment already is that's too close to the airport.
I
Yes.
just saw it in the, I was in the Gardner news today.
For God's sakes, I mean.
Yeah,
how many-
Arden actually sent me this. So if you look at the other two approaches, you can see the minimum altitude for that segment of the chart. And you can notice that there is a 2,099-foot tower there in that same area. And that minimum is 3,300 feet, so we might be okay. However, it is, you know, a little worrisome that it is pretty close to the airport, and it is pretty high. So if you feel strongly about it, you could send a note to the FAA saying, you know, we don't like it, it's too close to us, it's too high. It does say that it is, where is it? The structure above exceeds obstruction standards. So they already know, the FAA already knows that it is higher than what they normally know as standard. So, you know, we could send them a note saying we don't like it. They're looking for comments,
Yeah.
But the comments have to be-
You want to know why you don't like it.
why you don't like it. And it's aviation related, we don't like it, it's too close to the airport.
Yeah.
It might be on the path of a left downwind or a,
Most of the traffic, not all of a significant portion of the traffic uses runway 36. So if you're coming in from the south, like 180 degrees of territory south of the airport, you routinely come in, you know, and do a right upwind and then a crosswind and then a downwind, and that thing would be right in the way.
right?
The question I have is, there's a 1,261-foot tower off in that area. Where is that? I don't know where that's depicted anywhere.
I don't see that one.
Yeah, that's right there.
1261.
Because they're looking at what's, this one's gonna be what? What did you
This
say?
one is going to be 1,184 feet.
You know, they'll just say 1,200 feet.
So it's gonna be,
You might want to let them know you're looking forward to an LPV approach as well, so you don't want this kind of interference. on it.
Yes, and it just means every single time you come in, you have to be looking for it.
Right.
You know?
So who would be the person that needs to write this letter?
Any one of us could do it, and they want it to be sent to the FAA in Fort Worth, but it has to be done by Friday. And I would be willing to do it
Okay.
Friday is like tomorrow or 2 days from
2
now?
days from now, so I'd have to send it certified.
Okay, so if I-
overnight or-
well, you can, I wonder if you can do it online.
Maybe,
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You go to that site that I gave you.
yes, yeah, oh, okay,
A
and
little
thank
tab, and it'll say, you know, if you want to send us a note.
you. Okay, because it is,
Jim, what's the 1261? Are those the lights on the north-south ridge to the west of the airport? What the hell
That's
are they?
east,
Oh, that is, this map here is showing us the VOR and then,
yeah, but
easy.
it's east of the runway, and I don't know where that is.
Well,
It's south,
It's pretty close to this VOR, which is.
no, you see the little black line here?
Yeah.
That's the runway.
Oh,
You know, you see the chart right there, that's the.
okay, you're right.
Yeah, the VOR is to the west.
So this 1261 is in ballpark the same position as
The
the.
same position as what they're
Yeah,
proposing.
it's right in the way too,
But I
yeah.
don't see, they've got the X mark here, but we don't know what's in relationship to the,
Yeah, and the 1261 is not being depicted on this map on.
oh, that's topographical now.
No, because this one is only concerned with the possible
Proposal,
tower.
proposal.
Right,
I would be curious to know which one that one is, it's higher.
well, that's already there, so there's nothing we can do about it. This one is
I'm not
proposed.
asking, I would just be curious to know where the relationship, because the one that I know about is the, well, I don't know, the,
It's surrounded by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's troubling,
Yeah.
you know, especially on Friday night. Anyway, I can do that by Friday.
Excellent.
Tell them how we feel, so we don't like it.
That would be great. Now, would you call, if you're gonna try to email it to them, are you still gonna send them the letter so they have a hard copy of it?
Yeah, Armin
Yeah,
said
you can do it by computer, they get it.
do it on
Yeah.
their website, and I have the website, and
Yeah.
thank you, Armin, for,
Yeah, no problem. But that's something that each one of you should sign up on. When you get on the website,
it's good to
the
know.
link, you
Very
look on
good
the
to know.
left side, they have all these little things on the left side, one of them says signing up. And you just go in, give them your email address, and every time something like this is done at an airport near you, you'll get it
Pop
automatically.
up. Right.
Awesome. I'll get that from Isabel. Thank you.
Okay, all right, moving on. Number 6, airport electrical. I know that the runway project electrical is all set and ready to go, but I have asked the electrical contractor to add some meters for us while they are there. Because since they're on site, we may be able to have some cost benefit because they are on site anyway, pulling out the electrical. The gist of this is that the city is paying for some of the electrical, and really, we feel all the tenants should be paying for their own electricity.
I would think, yeah.
And most of the tenants are, but some of them are not, and we'd like to rectify that. And so, while they're there, if it doesn't cost too much, I'm going to ask them to add some meters to some of the hangars, and so that the tenants can pay their own electricity.
And what do we have in the budget for that?
We have a little bit of money that we got from the COVID relief fund from 1920 and 2021 and 22. We received money for that, so if it's not too expensive, I'll just use that money.
Sounds great.
Okay, number 7, 2 abandoned airplanes on the tie-down ramp that Jim alluded to.
Yep.
These have been on the ramp for years and years. I was looking at them yesterday, and boy.
Yep.
However, they are worth something, and the city can take possession of those because A, they are abandoned, and B, there's that rent
Correct.
owed that they
So-
have been paid.
Speaking of rent, where do we stand with all the people that are renting? And,
Looks like they've all left except for one of them.
There's one left, and it's currently registered, so he's good.
okay, but what about, so everybody other than one is up to date and we know who they all are?
Yes.
Could we see that before?
Yeah, I'm not prepared tonight to do
Okay.
it, but, yeah, absolutely.
And now on these 2 planes that have no owners,
It's the Piper and the 150, right?
Yes, they have owners, but they've abandoned them. So I've
Have they
talked to Mass DOT, and the procedure to take possession of those is to take the owners to small claims court.
Okay,
The owners will probably not show up because they've abandoned the airplane 10 years ago. And 30 days after that, the city can take possession of the airplanes. One of the airplanes at least is worth $20,000, the other one probably a little bit less. And I am proposing that we just sell those as is, and there are mechanics who will take those and fix them up and sell them for
Correct.
much more. We don't want to be in the business of too much risk, you know, after uncovering what's wrong with it, it could cost a lot more, so I propose we just sell them as is.
Correct.
And,
I believe that would be a great thing to do. We sent the letters, registered letters to the owners.
I have sent letters to the owners and they've come back.
No response.
Undeliverable.
Undeliverable.
Okay, so at least we have a paper trail that we have tried to establish contact with them.
Yeah.
And then let it in the court's hand. Do we have money in the budget to,
Yes.
is it like $250 to take them to small claims court?
Yes, and I know how to do that, and I just need approval from the mayor, and I'll go do that.
All right, and this will be a public auction that we will be holding to get rid of those two planes?
I haven't gotten that far, but there's already a couple of mechanics who have expressed interest in the 152, because that is worth something after it's fixed up for flight schools. Those are popular for flight schools.
All right.
No
Yeah,
interest in the Piper,
Maybe,
the tractable gear Piper, right?
maybe.
And down in the,
Yeah, maybe.
and how about Noel's airplane? He's continuing to support that thing? He's been
Yeah,
20
it's
years.
registered, it's registered,
Been
yes.
sitting there unused, unmoved for 20 years.
Yeah, but at least he's paying attention to it, so.
That's the one that puts air in his tire every now and then?
Yeah, the other two has flat tires.
Yep. All right.
Okay, number 8. I am looking out to other airport managers, and the airport manager at the Worcester Airport went to college with my brother. Small world, so I'm going to be going down there to visit their operations. And also Dave Deneen from Gale, who was a former airport manager, has reached out to me and, just to talk to me for a couple hours about being an airport manager and so forth. I thought that would be well worthwhile. So,
Yeah, he's a great resource.
yeah.
Yeah, he managed Mansfield, Taunton, and Marshfield. All different grades. Taunton was his first one, that was years ago. And then when he went to Mansfield, was when I first got into aviation, actually, and it was a little dinky hole in the wall. And when he left, he had 100 base aircraft there. And then he went to Marshfield and got into these corporate jet type of activity out of there. So he's been around, and he's pretty energetic guy. He'll like tires me out a little bit.
I think he'd be a good resource, and also Worcester, I know it's way beyond us, but it'd still be nice to go down and see the operations.
It's a great report, Isabel.
Yep.
It really is.
It's a very good report. How are you coming along with your certification for airport manager?
Fine,
Just curious.
Yeah.
And when do you think you'll have that completed?
I don't think that's a big deal right now.
No, but
I'm a
you've
little
seen.
busy right now.
Yeah,
And then
no,
9 was just the LPV approach, and I think Taunton recently done an LPV approach.
Bunch of like.
Mansfield did too.
Yeah, they're ordered to provide them. I mean, they won't. If they can't, they're not gonna give us something dangerous. But if there's any way that they can squeeze you in, they'll do it. So the master plan's a perfect opportunity
Nice,
to
good.
sit down and talk with them.
do we have any repairs to be done on the trucks for winter damage?
Winter on the
Snow
trucks?
plows?
Yeah, the small plow's we want to take the curl off of it, and then it's got a chain that's broken, the lift chain's broken. That's all I found so far. I'd like to be able to get a used, and I don't know if there is one for the big plow on the loader, the one that we put on.
Oh, the one that
Had the jerk edges,
Yep.
3 pieces.
About the city hall or your phone?
Cell phone.
So we came out of the winter with not too many problems.
No, but there's some updating that's gotta be done. I mean, I don't know how old the motor is, but it's starting to rust in places. I'm gonna see if we can do something with that, but it's a question of finding people and putting money at it.
Now, do you, Isabel, do you need a electrician to do these meters, or you already have one?
There is a designated electric contractor for the runway project, Cullen Electric,
Okay,
from Marshfield, and I have reached out to them and asked them if they can add those meters while they're here. They haven't
Okay.
gotten back to me yet. And I know it's last minute, so Nick said, contact them ASAP and see if
Are
they
you
can.
thinking on the post out front of the hangar or on the hangar itself?
The hangar themselves. For instance, number 5 has 1 hanger, 1 meter and 3 hangers. Those are the old hangers. And, I understand, back then, I understand how it evolved, but now there's an opportunity for us to put a meter on every
Yeah.
hanger. I think we should do it to save the city some money.
It's a hang of 4 or 5. 4
Both 4 and 5.
4's ours, 5
Yeah.
is the one I meant. 4 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 1 light bulb,
Yes.
that's it.
And a door.
1 light bulb.
You don't have a door.
No door, no electric door.
Use all muscle.
yeah, so I did try to get Jessica from Economic Development to come to our meeting tonight. She was already pre-engaged for another meeting about how to get the city and the city council a little bit more interested in the airport and how it brings in money. I know you're working on the recorder. Have you ever been able to make out a report of how many planes come in and out of Gardner?
Well, it was slow over the winter, obviously, and right now that is not up and running since, since the building has been cleaned out. Well, will be, painted, all the furniture and everything we have there. So we'll get, once that's done, we'll get that back going again. But, it's about 4 or 5 a day, which is
Right.
not, a lot. But we're expecting it, to pick up in the summer and when the weather improves. And with the grant money, the mayor put me in touch with our grant or contracts writer or grant
Okay.
writer,
Yep,
Anita,
yep.
and she is going to be looking into the Federal Transportation Association administration, because they have some other money relative to transportation systems that they will give to airports. And if we could get some of that money, that would be nice too.
That'd be nice to update that program and that laptop as well as maintaining the radio.
Yeah.
That would help out immensely. But it would help the redevelopment department as well as city council if we could show them what really goes on at the airport, because they don't seem to have a clue of what goes on at the airport and how much Gardner does need this airport. When I informed them about the helicopters being there, they're like, oh, really? They're interested in being there? Come on, people. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so we just need to educate them of what we're doing and trying to have some of these other departments join us in our meetings to see that how busy we are there and how important that of your job is to Gardner. So I really thank you for what you've been doing so far, and you've made more improvements in the time that you've been here than anything's gone in 50 years.
I'm trying.
You're trying
And I have
very
one
well.
more special interest. So a veterans group is trying to set the world's record for most airports visited within 1 day. And they started out in Ohio, in a Saratoga,
You know,
and they landed and they selected Gardner as one of their stops. And they have a picture.
So, oh, they've already done it?
They've already done it, and they stopped, and there's a great picture, where is it?
So do we have that posted on Gardner's Facebook page or website?
No, I haven't had time to, I'm not really into Facebook, but,
How are they, what were they flying?
Saratoga. And they came in and they signed, everybody is signing on the airplane, and it's a veterans group.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's very cool. Oh, I
How
have.
many airports in 24 hours?
Oh, like 89, there it is.
I see it.
And, all,
It's
yeah.
almost ridiculous.
So Gardner might be in the world record because they landed here yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I knew they were there. I would
Very
have
good.
known.
It wasn't me, it was Dominic, who happened to be, spray show. Dominic was here, I wasn't here.
Oh, yeah.
And see, everybody signed.
Did they, I didn't have, I knew they were coming because Ken got the call. Ken Holmes got the call, but I had no idea when.
Everybody signed.
And I was down there for like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours yesterday afternoon. I didn't see anybody, but they were,
They weren't supposed to, they come until 2:20, and I was there, and they came earlier. So I hope they get it.
Could I add something
Yes.
on your PR thing, which I think is great? One of the things that I used to talk to Ken about a lot, never really worked out, but was when you have a $5-6 million grant like you're getting, I would definitely get some notables down here, somebody from the FAA, somebody from the state, the mayor, and get into the newspaper.
Okay.
Make sure they know that, you know, if the FAA didn't pay 55.4 million, whatever it is, somebody would have to. And nobody gets that kind of money. If they do a new police station in town, they don't get 95% of the money. They're lucky if they get 50%.
Oh.
Same thing with schools. I mean, it's a great deal for a town, and nobody takes advantage of it.
Well, I know one of the things that we are talking about is, once we get this runway done, is do like a big open house and a barbecue, and put it out there, you know, hey, once you guys flying in, this is what we got going on to show off our new runway. But you'll say, it'd be nice to have the runway, but we got a 1927 building that hasn't had a thing done in over 50 years. So it's really beautiful here, but don't look over here. So Isabel's been very busy
I
on
have to rent the tent.
cleaning it out and making it a little bit more presentable for the general people, never mind new pilots that come in or planes coming in, that they can actually have a place and a toilet that works and, you know,
Isabel, if you could do
basic
that,
things.
you're worth every penny.
So this is why we're looking forward to our master plan and working on updating as much of it as we can going forward.
And that'll be a great opportunity too, to kind of show other entities within the city, you know, the value of the airport. I mean, it's kind of the perfect chance
Correct.
during the master plan process to give them that information and answer questions that they have to.
Yeah, especially
Nice.
having 2 new runners with helicopters there, they're like, wow, somebody's actually using it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
great.
What's next? Alarm Central?
Alarm Central, we did get the alarms, the heat detectors replaced. And they were not terribly happy because they told us they couldn't do it. But I found a gentleman who worked from another company, and, well, he works with another company. And we started last November or October, and I waited till warmer weather because we were gonna have to leave the door open a little bit to get in and out. Dominic had to give me enough floor space so we could start getting up there to get out. And we did. We got 2 of them back, we got from up in the out of the attic. The 2 up front, we were able to get the staging over in a ladder.
So they're working.
So everything's back working again. I don't know if they're monitoring it still. I'm sure the city's still paying for it. Because he said something about, well, he wasn't sure the liability was too great because he didn't know who changed them. But they were licensed.
So Greenwood is still monitoring the system?
I think so. Yeah, I told him, I said, if you're not monitoring it, please send a registered letter to the
You can call them on Central and check them, check the
Well,
system.
that's why we called them to tell them we wanted to do a test on the system.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you're plugged out for that, for the fire alarm, because of the repeated times and the heats. And so we ran our tests and called them back and said, and then Rick called me and he was all kinds of upset because it was not him doing it.
Well, we've offered it many times, and he did not want to come up with a quote, nor did he just silently said, I'm not interested. So if he's bitching that,
And I didn't want to leave it any longer than I had to get it, but I had to go, I had to figure out how we were gonna do it.
But
we got it done.
I called him for like 4 months,
I know,
and his last words were, I'm not interested, and have a nice day.
yeah. And so anyhow, the present system is working.
That's great.
And we're gonna go from there.
And
Update?
I've got probably about 3 or 4 more hours before the trees are all cut down at the bottom, down the south end, on the taxiway side. I've got most of the big ones out of the way, but I gotta figure out how we're gonna bring them up and off the guys when they come up and do the rest of them around the airport, because part of the airport project is clearing the trees, if they can grind them up when they come up.
How big are the components of the trees that need to be planted?
Probably, I think the biggest might be 4 or 5 inches. It's not big trees by any stretch. So, but there's just a lot of them, because they were growing in clusters.
You want to rent the chipper and chip them up?
Well, with whatever comes to doing that, we've got to hear again. It's a appropriation.
does the town have a chipper? Would they
But-
allow it?
I don't know, I've asked 2 or 3 times to have some help down there from the city and have nothing. So, the forester told me, you put your plan in, it'll be a year later before it gets looked at. So, and this was a
So the
safety
things,
issue.
the pieces of trees that you're gonna chip are already cut down,
Yes,
and they're laying on the ground.
yeah. And I added to the pile yesterday, and as I get time and the weather's,
Could we haul them away with the tractor?
where you gonna put them?
Somewhere else on the property?
Well,
Are they
it's,
big enough to chop up for firewood?
like I say, 4 or 5 inches is as big as you're gonna get.
What about
So-
the lawn post?
No, I wouldn't do that down on the southern end. Not with the swamp there.
I mean, not now, in the winter.
No, you can't do anything until
Yeah, fall.
mid-January to April 30th.
Do you have any tree clearing going on during the runway reconstruction?
Yes,
That would be the time.
that's why I was gonna try and
Time to
talk
drag
to
it.
them and see if they would.
Yeah, I mean, they would.
Park it over near there, 'cause I was just gonna go there, yeah. I will, as we get going.
Yeah, when the FAA does a project like that, not planning projects, those are fixed financially. They say, we're gonna pay 200,000 to do this, that's it, it's not 201. But in a development project where you're building something, they have a 15% override,
Right.
because stuff always happens. And, you'll get into a job and all of a sudden, shit, we thought we could replace this pipe, but we can't, we gotta do this or that, or do something else. All of that's factored in, so if they have to chip or even cut through the trees.
Well, it's mostly this part wasn't part of the project, according to Nick. He was down there one time, we were looking at it. And so we started the process last, I don't know, it was August or September, and went through the Conservation Commission. And finally got approval from Dumbledon, and it's good for 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
So you're down in the wetland area.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, we had to get through that, and then we can do, and it's, I'm just trying to get it out of the way, because you literally could not see anybody, now that the leaves are on the trees, you couldn't see anybody on farm. And you had to pull beyond the threshold,
Really?
or the whole shoreline, in order to see the planes. So I've got, like I say, I got probably, I think we're about half, 3/4
And
done.
you're cutting it yourself? I asked Nick about that, I can't see why they,
Well-
usually there's tree clearing operations.
But this was,
Future.
this was sensitive from the standpoint that they couldn't see, you couldn't see literally. We had the glider club out of Sterling they were doing runway work in Sterling, and so they came up for the duration of that time and used Gardner. And there was a guy I came in landing on 3-6, and I was talking to him on the ground when I was on final approach, and I couldn't see the glider. It was parked over by the taxiway on the grass, and you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it doesn't make any difference from that standpoint because it wasn't in the way, but
Right.
if somebody were to pull out in front of me, it would,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
would,
tend to go around. But the,
bad day.
yeah, well, you know, it's just that sort of stuff that
I'm
time
sure,
sensitive we do
I'm
it.
sure Nick can help you out with that.
Well, it's just-
Such a dinky little job.
Oh, yeah, and I'd be willing to, you know, I think Isabel worked with me one day, we didn't have anybody else down there, did we?
No, just for me.
Just two of us, we worked on
It's
it.
a lot of work.
I went around it, the first thing I did was I went around and closed the area, and then I says, everything in this area is gonna disappear. And, I'm taking it down, but I never know when I'm going down there unless, you know, I'm headed that way, I got maybe a half an hour is my problem, because I never know, my schedule's not fixed.
Does this gentleman have anything to break, or?
Yeah, well, we just,
Um,
new business.
I'm just studying city government. I got took out nomination papers for mayor.
Okay.
So I've been trying to go to all the meetings to understand how this whole thing works.
Great, well, welcome.
And, hey, if you want to get rid of some firewood, I'm open.
Well, it's small stuff, it's kids.
Well, 4 or 5 inches
Well,
is good.
it's
I'll
about,
make a
what did I
split.
say about that one?
Yeah.
It's not much. The other thing on the new business, the AMA, we were sending it to the wrong email. And he has finally reached out, he looked at the email for the AMA organization, and he has his private email, I think is how, where, we got that straightened out, and he's still interested. MIT has, working on a, what do they call it? It's a designated area for remote controlled aircraft. Its ceiling is 400 feet. They gave us a,
Did some more different paperwork?
while he's taking care of it, Joe Wright, who runs the aviation work at the FAA, this is the circular. I printed that out, and then he forwarded, kind enough to give me his application, and it marks the area over on the other side of the road, and he's got it designated, and they have to send all this to the FAA.
No, the MIT paying for rental?
Yes. We get monthly rental, and then we get each day we get rent from them, that they right there. But that's the, and basically this advisory is it tells the FAA what it is you have designated for a box that these guys can fly in, because these drones don't have transponders on them. And so therefore, they have to keep them in the box, and they have to maintain line of sight.
What's this acronym mean, this FRIA, please? What does that stand for?
Look at the top of the, usually, Robert's got the,
FRIA?
yeah, you on the front page, it tells you. And it's basically it's advisory only, they don't deny it from anything, but they.
It's a federally recognized identification area.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. I can never remember all the
And
acronyms.
this is strictly for the purpose of models, or are we talking about drones and drone games?
No, this is anything that is,
Radio
I don't, it's radio controlled. They have to stay under 400 feet. They have to stay within the parameters of the box.
And this is coming from MIT, so it's not kids flying model airplanes, it's MIT.
But everybody who flies
Yeah.
has to comply. So I've talked to the guys, a couple of the guys that have flown model airplanes down there. And I think we can take and designate the same area that MIT has.
Yeah,
And that would be good, but if we have anybody, and Isabel doesn't think we can should use the runway for model airplanes without, we can close the airport, but we could close it for certain hours and stuff like that. if
as
it
we
generates
do
a- Like the jet guys.
every summer, right?
Well, we haven't done it for 3 years,
Okay.
but they're trying to formalize what the area these guys are gonna work in.
Yeah.
But,
I'm going to give you a word of caution, not to publicize too much the MIT is at the airport.
right.
Basically, they're there because they needed a place where they could operate out of the public's eye. And they do use other areas in Gardner, but most of the stuff is for the Department of Defense. So I wouldn't put too much unless you had permission from them.
Right. But I have to,
If they're tying up the airport,
they're not.
they need to,
This has nothing, this area is designated as far and forward from the runway, it doesn't do anything.
Just for Riz, any chance we could ask them, since we're beautifying the airport, making it nice, that they would be willing to paint their Conex boxes all one color?
I don't know who owns the Conex boxes.
I thought it was
I
all
thought
MITs.
they were MITs too, but Kenny was saying there was stuff to it.
Because if they're not MITs, whose are they? And if we don't have an owner of them, then why don't we get them out of the area and use those Conex boxes for the airport?
I think they,
That's
I don't
power
know.
to the trailer. That's where the power is going to the trailer, right?
I don't think, these comic boxes, these
Conex
shipping
boxes.
containers, right?
Yeah, they're 20-foot shipping boxes.
Oh, yeah.
They've got stuff stored in
They're
them.
stored here.
They were leased by MIT, and I think they were donated to the airport. They left them. They said you can have them.
Oh.
And
So
they-
if that's the
they-
case, then let's move them,
Well,
then we could use them.
No, they still use those as targets.
As what? Oh,
Targets.
I think they're in an inappropriate area if anybody were to lose an engine and was trying to get into the airport and couldn't make
Right on the
the field.
downwind, yeah.
You're obviating the use of that grassy area as an emergency landing spot with those cans sitting there.
I know you're talking about this. My brother had a student lost an engine and came in right there.
So who is the contact person that we talked to from MIT?
I could take care of that.
I think it's great to have them there, just move it, they don't need to be in the middle of that field,
well,
except they're using
right.
it, they're using it. As some sort of location that the drones are tracking, or, I get it,
MIT has used the airport for several different things.
yeah.
And
I think we're lucky to have
I think
MIT
they're
use the
very,
airport.
I think that's a very positive thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not MIT Boston, it's Lincoln Lab, 100% federally funded research center for the Department of Defense and for other government agencies.
Yeah.
So
It's,
it's very critical work in the national interest.
right. And I think that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing that they came together.
Real, yeah, if they're willing to paint it, or if they're ours. I know I just finished painting my 6 Conex boxes, and I still have a few gallons left of some really nice paint for Conex boxes. Make it look a little more pleasing to the eye.
The identification area is what I'm looking to.
Are you in contact with Joe Wright? Drop him a line, ask him about it.
Well, he,
Or I can make a call.
yeah, that's fine. Joe is the one who's handling. Are there any,
make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I did confirm with Nick, just so everyone is aware, the schedule for the runway reconstruction, it will be in August, most likely the first week, so I was able to confirm
I
that.
was thinking that we'd probably see somebody from the company coming up to say, okay, where we're gonna, I know that we had quite a discussion last year when they did the contract and came up, we walked on. And they were concerned about that road because it was just put in. So-
Yeah, I have a note of that here to mention.
But there is a
that.
gate already in the fence, but the fence is coming out because they've got to build a wall. And
We don't want to louse up that road.
Huh?
We don't want to louse up that road with heavy truck traffic.
Compared to what it was before, we want to keep it. So, that being said, we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:28. Did I have a second on that?
Second. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you.
How's he doing?
We nailed down that, pink color.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, well,
Yes.
he's living in York, like I said.
since you're in the middle of painting, by the way.
Thank you, Gail, for bringing this picture to us.
We
We'll hang it
went
in
to
the building,
Alaska
we'll hang it in the
2 years
building as
ago.
soon as the building's done.
When the pandemic started, we were actually in Alaska fishing.
That's very nice.
Going back this August, but
Very nice.
told me I can't go because I got
It's always nice to have historic photos of the airport to go up there.